Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 173. I am your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is...
A very achy James Seelig.
Don't break my
Yeah.
James. My achy breaky James. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a few days off because God of War came out and I'm just like, I'm playing that game. I don't want to have to chip away at it over like 2 months. And I was able to get a COVID booster shot yesterday. And so far it seems every time I get one of the like next booster shots, I have a worse reaction. So today
I
I've just
wake
been
up
like,
dead.
yeah, no, dude, I woke up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I don't remember exactly. I know I checked the time and it was like super early, but I don't remember exactly when it was. And I was just like shivering. And so yeah, I've just felt terrible all day, but I'll power through it for the show.
Well done. All right, man. I appreciate your sacrifice.
Dude, there's a lot of talk about that shit, sacrifice and whatnot in God of War Ragnarok. It's
Don't
fucking good.
say it, please. I have not gotten to touch it at all. People are basically on their third day. I'm on day 0 still. I was working on like a friend's short film, pretty much like most of the week, and then getting some other stuff done.
I was wondering,
Especially,
I thought you gave yourself a few days off. Like, what have you been doing besides God of War, which is the only thing that matters?
yeah, I was working on sound stuff.
That's
I
fair.
also
I'll give you that.
Monday, I finished up Festival of the Lost in time to get the seal. I was gonna try to guild, and I'm like, it's not worth it. 30,000 fucking candies is stupid.
Yeah, Chris was telling me like he played a bit more of it than I did, and he was complaining about like the amount of grinding they want you to do to fill out the entire book is like ridiculous.
It's honestly okay. If you're just doing the seal, it's not that bad. It's pretty fair, I want to say. To get the candies though, like by the time I was finished, I want to say I was at like 22,000 candies with the seal, and that's after playing over 30 rounds or so
Dang.
uh of the Haunted Lost sector. So I was just kind of like, all right, yeah, this is fuck, dude, I'm done. But yeah, that was a whole thing. Also, I did Extra Life. I raised $300.
Oh yeah, how'd you feel after that? I meant
Dude,
to text you after.
I honestly could have stayed up and kept going. Because what happened was, I want to say around 5 to 7 a.m., somewhere in that area, I was playing Destiny and I was in the Haunted Lost sectors, and I would be like, I'm awake, and then all of a sudden my eyes would open and be like, what the hell just happened? And it happened so many times I had to switch out of Haunted Lost sectors to Crucible, and I ended up doing comp and trials.
Damn.
Woke up immediately. I was like, all of a sudden, like second wind came, and I'm like, I'm competing. I must be awake.
That's an
And
interesting strategy to keep yourself awake by like literally making yourself do something that you have to focus for.
dude, it's insane. It like did a full on autopilot like awakening, and I'm over there playing PC comp and trials against people with a controller and still killing people. And I'm like, cool. All right. I still got my ass kicked plenty of times, but they were playing against a dude with the controller who had no sleep, who is on like death's
Yeah.
door, and they're still getting killed. So I think at least that says a little bit. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna do Destiny cycle hunt, and I didn't even have time for cycle. Like I finished the hunt event and I was like, cool, hunt event is done. And then when I got to Destiny, and I'm like, I'm not gonna even finish Destiny. Like I'm not gonna get the seal until the next day. This isn't happening. But it was a good time, basically. I always say this, but I do really want to stream before next year's Extra Life. I don't know what games I'm going to try to stream for. Maybe Cycle until I finish up that season pass. Who knows? But I do want to try to just casually do some stuff. It wouldn't be charity oriented, but it'd just be like, cool. Let me see if I can get the 50 followers, because I got like 8 or 10 more followers from the last 24-hour stream. So I'm like at 40 now, I want to say. And I think 50 does something to you. I don't really know. I've never looked into it at all, since I've never really looked to get money from Twitch or anything, considering the only times I've ever been on Twitch was for charity.
Yeah.
But yeah. Otherwise, this is Sutro Sidetalk. We talk what we play and watch, plus select news here and there. And this week, God of War just came out, so we're going to talk about it right now. Not really, since I haven't touched it and James isn't done yet, but I think
I
we'll get to it.
I think I'm like 20 hours in.
Okay.
which is maybe halfway.
Yeah, I
We'll
heard it's
see.
like anywhere from like 40 to 60 hours or something.
Ugh. Yeah, like that
Uh,
was why I took like a few days off of work, because I was like, most of the time I have like maybe an hour to 2 hours a night to play something after I'm like done with all my chores and whatnot. And if I do that, it's gonna take like literally months to get through this game that I've been waiting years to play. And I was like, I got like 100 hours of vacation time saved up. I should use it for fucking something.
yeah. Actually, right before we started recording this, I literally just opened the God of War Ragnarok Collector's Edition and I attempted to do a TikTok unboxing because I was like, I should try to just, make it a TikTok out of this. Fuck it. And yeah, it took exactly 3 minutes considering I think it cut off before I even got to say cool. I was like, yeah, it's pretty. And then it just stops. And I'm like, good enough.
It's pretty.
Yeah. I just literally put it out. And what was funny was I think one of my codes got on there. And I was like, oh shit. So while we were setting up, I was like entering the
Oh, that's
code
why
for,
you're doing it like so fast,
yeah,
because you
I
were
was
like,
like,
oh no,
must
what if
enter
someone uses
codes,
this?
download now before I post this on TikTok. So the codes are null and void at that point. So that was a lucky save there.
Fair point. Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, this week we're actually going to talk about Rings of Power, the Amazon Lord of the Rings TV series that's 8 episodes. If we have time after, James will talk his playthrough of Shadow of Mordor, the first of the two Shadow
I
games.
finally got through it because the Rings of Power was just good enough that it got me in the mood for more Lord of the Rings shit. And I was like, I just bought the Mordor games on Steam sale for like, it was like either $8 or $16 for both games. So I'll get to Shadow of War eventually.
You played the good one first. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
supposedly both are good, but just the second one
this
they're
one's not
like,
grindy though. The other one is
yeah,
stupid grind. It's kind of disgusting, if I'm going to be honest.
supposedly
Also, the fanfic in it is kind of killer.
yeah,
This
that's
one feels like more like they didn't try to go insane with the fan fiction.
it's like not until the end of the game where shit gets crazy, and I was just like, one, I'm kind of confused what even just happened, and I also don't know how to feel about where the story is going, because they have a cliffhanger at the end that
Yes.
I'm just like,
Well, we'll get
that's
there when we get there.
cool, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I like it.
Yeah, just yeah, like I said, the next game.
Yeah.
But after that, if there's also time, I forgot I watched a movie called Barbarian, so we could talk about that as
Oh,
well
you
as
actually did
finally,
watch it.
yeah, a while ago, and then also Injustice 2 and Mortal Kombat 11. But we'll see. God of War Ragnarok probably won't be for a couple of weeks. I don't imagine next week either. That way we're not like killing ourselves to finish it, but more enjoying it. Uh,
Yeah.
so I would say in 2 weeks we'll probably do God of War. Next week though, what's probably going to be is a Marvel episode. We usually do 2 or 3 of those a year, honestly. And this one is going to be She-Hulk and Black Panther 2: Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, I totally
So
forgot that came out today.
yeah, we're gonna watch it. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
I
we'll probably
didn't
do
get
it
any
this weekend.
updates on like what time,
Yeah, I know,
or if we're
Brandon.
actually still going.
Yeah, we're still going. He just loves to do the time last minute. So he's gonna tell
Uh,
us. I'm gonna prod him to get him to say it sooner so it doesn't screw us over. But
alright.
yeah,
Yeah.
Brandon does that. Uh I think yeah, we'll do those two next week. And then we'll play it by ear for the rest of everything else coming. Because there's 2 Star Wars shows, there's I eventually still want to do One Piece. I saw the movie One Piece Red, which was really good. I still want to do a Gundam episode. There's plenty of other stuff. I want to talk about Cycle Frontier, which I'm going to wait till I finish the season 2 pass so I can talk about both seasons and the game as a whole. It'll be a fun little thing there. But
Does each season have like a story to it, or
no, it's just the second season has a new map. Uh,
okay.
so it's going to be like that whole area there. And I haven't even touched it yet. Like I haven't unlocked it and I'm still trying to get there. But yeah. Otherwise, news this week. Unfortunately, I guess we'll just say it now. Kevin Conroy passed away today.
Yeah.
And it was, this is really sad because he was our Batman.
He's
I can
literally the voice that I think of when I hear Batman.
He is Batman in the animated series, which encompasses everything from the Batman animated series, Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited. He's Batman in all of that. He's Batman in the Arkham games as well as some of the movies, the animated films. He pretty much became the voice of Batman in my head as well as when I read comics. I just
Yeah.
hear the
Hmm.
Kevin Conroy Batman voice reading it aloud. He is and always has been my Batman and my favorite Batman. Sorry, Batfleck. Like I love Batfleck, but like I mean, Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy is
His voice is
Batman.
just so perfect.
Yeah, very much so.
Was, I guess.
But it's incredibly sad that he passed away. I'm glad that I got to meet him once. I think it was 2018 for San Francisco Comic Con, and it was really, really cool that I got to meet him. I wish I took a picture. I actually got him to sign my DVDs or my like DVD box sets of Batman and Batman Beyond, uh, the DVD sets there. So at least I have
Nice.
that. But looking back now, I'm like, dude, you should have spent triple the money so you could have gotten a picture and like an audio recording. But oh well, at least I have something, which is better than nothing. And it's so sad. And I hope, wish his family the best. And I hope we get to keep thinking about him all the time. He'll be, he'll always be remembered considering he left behind probably the best animated show, period,
Oh yeah, dude. The
for us to always
90s
watch.
Batman cartoon is like still incredibly watchable today.
Oh yeah,
Also,
very much
Batman
so.
Beyond is like amazing.
Yeah. Otherwise, the other news that is less, sad. Uh, well, I guess, yeah, not sad to this extent. Real fast, Westworld was canceled. I only wanted to say it. I just realized because
Yeah.
we watched season 4 and just talked about it, and we're like talking about season 5. But how do you feel, really fast, on that?
Like I wasn't super hot on the last season. It was kind of weird. It was an interesting idea that they were like, what if the hosts were the ones in charge and the humans were on the loops? But it just was a very odd idea, I guess. And it was also interesting and weird that they were like, okay, we literally cannot save everyone because basically the Earth biosphere, I guess, is collapsing. So the only way to survive, like to save anything, is to like save some of our consciousnesses in a virtual world. And so they were basically going to go back to Westworld, but as a digital version. And I was like interested to see where that was going, but at least as like a cliffhanger ending, that's like a decent stopping point because it
Yeah,
kind of feels like, well, you can imagine what happened next because it's kind of the same as the first season, but I don't know. Like I definitely I loved the first couple seasons. I thought like the third season was okay. Wait, what was it? What was the last season?
the season we just watched was the whole time skip one. Third season was that Revolution one.
Yeah, okay. The Revolution one was super cool. But like
You know what's funny? A lot of people didn't like that. That was the one where everyone
that's
dropped off.
weird. Like I thought it was really cool. Like the like Dolores was like, you humans are also on tracks, just like you just don't know it yet because it's just so well hidden, I guess. I don't know. Like so I liked the show, but it definitely was it felt like it was losing steam. And I don't know if they needed to keep going indefinitely. So I would have preferred them to have like an end to the story, but it's fine where it left, I guess.
Yeah, it seemed like
I
they
guess.
made it so it could end there if necessary,
Yeah.
but it's not like the end of the world that we could have gotten more and it would have just been one season more. Like there was an end point here. The whole thing was though the ratings did dive after season 2 and
Yeah.
declined over each pretty much it sounds like each episode or season, more or less. And at this point, we're going through the whole WB Discovery uh budget cuts right now, or like basically
Yeah.
cutting things that they don't need, and they're like, we could literally save money if we don't do this, plus it's not getting us viewers at this point, so let's just cut it off. So it's understandable. And I was just at first like, oh shit, it's canceled, and then I was like, that's okay. Like it wasn't the end of the world or anything.
Yeah. Like that's about how I feel. Like it
Yeah,
sucks, but I could be worse.
if you guys go back a few episodes, you can hear us talk about season 4 though if you
Yeah.
want. And that's kind of like our finish on it. Otherwise, I think that's really everything. I don't feel like talking about Twitter, so
Yeah,
uh everything else has just been we got trailers and everything else, but I don't think it's worth really talking about here, except maybe there was one thing I can't
I
remember
still haven't
now.
seen the John Wick trailer supposedly
It
that
was
came
pretty
out.
cool. John Wick trailer, Gears of War movie announcement and everything else, but
I don't know how
uh
to feel about that because I want it, but I
oh, actually
also
really fast, we have the
I don't know how good it'd be.
Godzilla movie coming out next year. That's gonna be fun.
Which one?
Well, we have Godzilla and Kong, that's what it's called right now, the sequel.
Interesting. Okay.
Just pretty much wrapped filming in Australia. I don't know if they're filming in another location or if they're just done filming in general. But they're going to team up and fight a bigger bad that I assume is going to be from the Hollow Earth. The other thing being that there's a Godzilla film coming next year from Japan. And if I read it correctly, who's doing it? It's November 3rd. It's going to be next year's Godzilla Day. It's November 3rd, 2023. They literally said exactly 1 year from now.
All right.
Takashi Yamazaki is the one directing it. And he's done Lupin the Third, the First,
Mm.
Parasite Part 1 and 2, Dragon Quest Your Story. I could have sworn he did some other stuff, but I think I can't tell if it's live action or animated, honestly, because I think it could be one or the other. But I'm interested in it. I just haven't done enough research. I haven't had time. So
God, I want more
sorry. You guys
singular
can probably
point.
get better answers from other people than me right now, but that's gonna be cool. I'm getting double Godzilla, and I'm pretty happy. I just hope
Nice.
Godzilla and Kong is not as brain dead as Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah, my like stupid semi-fever brain was like, oh man, wouldn't it be funny if they did the like fusion dance from Dragon Ball Z and they became
Monk lizard, lizard monk,
uh
Liz monkey,
like
Mo lizard,
Kongzilla or something.
Mo Liz, Mo
Uh,
Liz. It's awful.
uh,
Yeah. But I think we're ready to get right into the power of the rings of power, the Lord of the Rings, the rings of power.
I can't believe
Um,
Alexander Skarsgård was in that Godzilla versus Kong movie. I keep
yeah,
forgetting about that.
yeah, I know. So
Uh,
this show, I'm gonna be completely honest, like before this show came out, I was so afraid of this show. I was like, oh shit, they're gonna fuck it up. I don't know how
well, we
I
got
feel
red
about.
flags like a while ago when they were like, yeah, for season 2, we're gonna just film on like a studio lot because why not?
Yeah.
We were
I mean,
like,
I
oh
guess they
no,
might do some location in the UK, but
nah,
it's just like, dude, you had Paradise. You were filming in Paradise and you threw it away for your bullshit fucking money savings and your
save a
Amazon. You
few
don't need,
dollars.
you're literally Amazon. You don't need to fucking do that. So
Yeah,
I'm already afraid of season 2, but we're here to talk about season 1. And I literally finished it. So I said right before this episode, I was doing that God of War unboxing. Right before that, I was watching the final episode of Rings of Power. Uh, it's 8 full episodes, and when I say full, I mean like these are full
they're like
episodes. They're
hours,
over.
like an
They're
hour
over an
long
hour.
at
Yeah, they're like
least.
an hour, 10 minutes, about hour, like between an hour and 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and they're super beefy more than anything else. So at least in terms of that production amount, I do appreciate that right there, that they put that much time into it, considering like they're coming off of like the fabled trilogy of all trilogies, which
Yeah,
is like 12 hours long. uh
forget about the Hobbit though.
yeah, we don't
The Hobbit's okay. It's just not as
the
good.
first movie's good, and
Yeah,
then the other two, you're like, you could have cut, like you could have just taken probably a quarter of the third movie and half of the second movie and put those together into one.
but it did
Uh,
not need to be a trilogy.
it did not. That was WB being greedy. So,
How much can we stretch this out?
hey, Peter Jackson, could you turn this into 2 more movies? Why? Why? Yeah, just have this elephant dwarf thing. It'll be great. Everyone's gonna love it. It's like, dude, this is the worst thing ever. But yeah, we're not gonna talk about Hobbit. Uh, I guess to break this down into areas, we have different settings. We have our Harfoots setting with our mysterious
The,
friend.
yeah, the
Uh, we
stranger
we have our Galadriel Halbrand area. We have the Numenorians. We have Elrond and Durin, so elf dwarf
and
stuff,
like the Southland stuff, which I didn't really give a
and the
shit about.
Southland stuff. So there's 5 different areas. We also have, I guess, when you get into the lore itself, which kind of gets into those a
I
bit.
hated that they covered the Morgoth stuff in like 5 minutes.
It
And
wasn't
it
even
was
5 minutes, dude.
not even, dude. Like I was like,
They
yo, this could have
prologue the
been a whole
prologue.
series.
They pro well, they apparently didn't have rights to it.
I know. I know that's why. And
Yeah,
it's frustrating, but it's literally just like, Joe, that sounds way cooler than what this show is, which the
yeah.
show is like fine.
I mean, the whole thing is that, so I guess to get right into it, guys, the whole thing of this show is it takes place after, if you're looking at the books, we have 5 books. We have the Similarion, which is kind of like the start of everything. It's like the first and second ages of everything. Then you have this kind of time gap, which is the whole, like, if you watch Lord of the Rings Fellowship, there's that prologue where it talks about the last alliance of man and elves fighting Sauron. That's where the show takes place. And then you have The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings trilogy and whatnot. What's going to happen here is this show will cover pretty much all the time post Similarion, all the way probably finishing with the last lines of Man and Elves fight, like the full battle against Sauron at Mordor.
Yeah, I think they
And
said that this show is going to take place over several thousand years total from start to finish, but I don't know.
it can't. I mean, I don't think
No?
it's possible. Well, the whole thing is,
Oh, maybe they're including the Morgoth shit in the beginning.
I think so, because it's literally impossible. They have to keep it within one generation. They can't go past that.
Oh, right. Yeah, because the seal door, dude,
Elendil, Isildur, right there.
I
Yeah,
fucking forgot that a seal door is in that show, and he's just like gone in one episode, and he's just like never comes back. Like
he's
it
back.
really
Well,
felt
he'll
like,
be back in season 2.
for sure, but it feels like the last episode didn't get to wrap up most of the shit that needed wrapping
Well,
up.
they wanted to keep him a mystery, and they already finished the dwarf
Well, we know
storyline in the
he's
previous
alive. He
episode.
has to be.
That's the thing. Okay, where do we want to start here? Which of the 5 branches of people, which one do you want to start with? I'll let you decide. You have 10 seconds.
I want to start with Galadriel first because she was the one that annoyed me
Okay,
the
Galadriel
most for the
Halbrand.
most.
Okay,
Yeah, for the most of the show.
so we have Galadriel, and we're not going to do a play-by-play of all that shit, but we have a younger version of her, and she is a lot more arrogant, a lot more
Yeah.
vengeful.
So
She's she's also like a warrior, and
yeah,
I'm not against. I am the last person to be against a female warrior. I will tell you right now, especially fucking Eowyn. Like, come on.
for
But
sure. No, it just feels
it's
like
just, well,
like
really fast. Like,
yeah,
you look at her in Lord of the Rings, you look at her in The Hobbit, you look at her in the books, and she's this very kind of wise, quaint
yeah.
sorceress type of woman, not a sword wielding, like I can do fucking stunts, and you're like, what the
Hmm.
fuck. That's how she's portrayed in this show, and I understand that, in a sense, like, we're not where she is yet. I get that she's not where she is in the later area, where she's a lot wiser. She's pretty much like all knowing, all seeing, and it's like, oh, like the one who has seen the eye, Frodo, and it's all that cool, like the dark and powerful queen, all this stuff, and she could like throw Sauron with her powers if she really wanted to. But here she's not at that yet. And what's funny is, like, I guess a few thousand years do pass from now till like the Lord of the Rings and
Yeah,
everything, and the Hobbit, which are pretty much next to each other. They're less than 100 years apart, so that's less
yeah,
than a millennia. And I guess I'm coming to terms with it, where I'm okay with the direction they're trying to utilize her in, but I'm also not enjoying the way she is at the same time. I
yeah,
understand it. I just don't necessarily like it, the way they're going about the utilizing of her.
yeah. And eh, I think that's mostly my problem too. Like I get that maybe they are trying to play it off that like she is just like not as wise as she will be, like you said, like literally thousands of years later. But by the time this show takes place, isn't she supposed to already be thousands of years old? Because weren't they at war with Morgoth for like thousands of years?
Yeah, that's the whole thing. She's talking, for those that don't know, she's talking to her in the very beginning. She talks to her brother Finrod. Finrod is big in the Silmarillion. He's like,
Yeah, he's just gone immediately.
he's fucking dead. I'm like,
It's Finrod. We finally got died
it's
off screen, dude. When they
he's
got to like
Gil-galad of Lord of the Rings. Really fast, really fast.
my husband
Gil-galad.
Celeborn died long ago, I'm like, what? No, he didn't.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? Who the fuck is that next to you in Lothlorien and Lord of the Rings? Which actually, then I was like, wait, who is next to her Lord of the Rings? I don't remember now. Wasn't that Celeborn?
Yeah, it is supposed to be Celeborn.
Because there's the whole thing of, all right, there's so many elves of notable mention of legendary like name in the Silmarillion. One of them is Finrod, but here's the thing, guys. They all start with like F and C, so then it gets really and even like G to a lesser extent. Like I can at least remember all three of the G's: Gladriel, Gil-galad, Glorfindel. I'm like, okay, no
Yeah.
problem. The average person that just watched the movies is like, I know one of those, and I'm like,
Gandalf.
Gandalf the elf. Like, stupid. God, y'all don't know Glorfindel. It's depressing. Read a book. Gil-galad is the High Elven King. He fights Sauron at the very end of the War of the Last Alliance of Men and Elves. Him and
It's so
Elendil
weird in this show.
fight him for like 3 fucking days, and then Sauron kills them both, and then Isildur comes and like cuts off the finger and shit. Gil-galad's well known if you really get into the lore. And what's crazy is, you know, in the Fellowship prologue, when they show the Last Alliance fight, you actually get him in the extended cut for like two very brief moments. You see him. You don't see him die. You don't see him fight Sauron, but he's there, and you're like, oh shit. And they got his like look spot on, and it was enough that they made a figure for him. They made an action figure, and I bought it.
Nice.
I found it and I bought it, and I was like, gosh, Gil-galad. But in this show, he's there. And then what do they do in this show? They go, hey, you know how in Lord of the Rings you were like, wait, that was the last alliance? I want to see more of that. Well, here's the fucking final battle against Morgoth, Melkor, in the Silmarillion. Here's also, but it's less time than the prologue and Fellowship, so you just get it for a few seconds, and you see Finrod just like, ah!
Yeah, he just died on the battlefield, and,
And
like,
you're like,
oh, okay.
no. Which I don't think he dies on the battlefield like that. He dies in a much more. There's like 12 dudes that he's with, and then they get fucked over by like Sauron, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing, guys. Read the similar. It's insane. It's an insane book. I don't want to get too much into it, but the point
But
is,
yeah,
Finrod. Yeah,
back to
Gladriel.
Gladriel though. Like you also mentioned that she seemed more like she's not, at least in the books and everything, she never seemed to need a sword. She was just more powerful with like magic and stuff.
Mhm.
And maybe like that's after she gets the Ring of Power, which the season ends with them forging the Rings of Power. So maybe
Well, some of the rings. They forged the first set.
yeah, the 3 Elven Rings, supposedly.
Yeah.
Which we got to talk about why the mithril shit annoyed me in this season. It did not make sense to me or whatever. But I don't know. It just I am not a fan of characters that are overly arrogant because they just know they're right and then they always end up being right. So they never learn anything. They just know they're already perfect already.
Yeah. Also,
And
real fast, I was right. Celeborn is in fucking Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
He's in Lothlorien. That's Celeborn. You sons of bitches. Yeah, continue.
But yeah, so and maybe you're right. Maybe by the end of season 2 or throughout the course of the show, she will become less arrogant and less impulsive.
We're also
But
seeing
like,
it already too. But I'll keep going. Sorry,
I
I'll tell
guess,
you why.
but I just
Well, I'll
like
explain the and like why I think so.
yeah, I just couldn't stand the scene where she was in Numenor and the
Do
Queen
as I
Steward,
say.
yeah, the Queen Steward was like, no, I'm not gonna send
Queen
my
Regent,
army.
James.
Queen Regent,
Queen
right? You're right.
Regent. She ain't no fucking Denethor.
Yeah,
The
and
king's
so
still
like,
alive. He's just old and dead.
yeah, he's like dying, and
Yeah.
so she is like, no, I'm not gonna send my army to fight your elven war. I don't know who you are. I don't know that like that Sauron is even still alive because you have no proof about that yet, except for you say you saw a sigil of his in an old abandoned keep of his. That's not enough for me. And then Galadriel's just like, well, okay, well, you're just the regent though, so fuck you. I'm gonna talk to the king then. And yeah, immediately the regent's just like, who the fuck do you think you are? I'm in power right now. You're in Numenor. You're going in my fucking cellar or my jail.
Dungeon. Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, of course. Like, why did you think you had any like power here, Galadriel? Like, you're literally like a guest here, and you're basically making demands of go to war for me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know, and the annoying thing is, I know she's right, but it just annoys me that she is supposedly thousands of years old and she acts like she's 20, like a human
It's
20-year old.
super crazy. Yeah. The whole thing
So,
too, I guess, like it sound I think it sounds like she's been hunting Sauron for hundreds of years or
and that's the
something.
other thing. Like,
And
she was like,
that's been pitched, that's probably been fucking her up. The whole thing
yeah,
she talks about, like, kind of going, there's evil in her now from it because she's let
her brother's
vengeance
like,
kind of
touch the
steer her.
darkness.
Yeah, she already been doing that the whole time.
Yeah,
Uh,
but
yeah.
like it just bothered me that she was surprised when her like squad abandoned, or I guess mutinied technically.
Want to go home? It
And it's just
fucking
like,
sucks here.
yeah, it's like you've been they literally are like, you've been dragging us around to the ends of the earth for hundreds of years and we've found nothing. Like, we want to go home. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Uh,
And again,
it
it's
ends
annoying
up, I
because I know
guess,
she's right the whole fucking time.
she's right, but she's right for the wrong reasons, just like people are wrong for the right reasons.
Yeah.
It's that whole
And
thing of South Park when they're like the Kyle, no, the Kenny life support.
yeah. And I think what would fix it for me is if, at least in the opening segment, when she's like chasing down like hints for that Sauron still exists, if she had been on her own personal crusade and not dragging other elves to their potential doom, like,
Forcing Halbrand into, okay, at the
oh
time,
god, like this,
forcing
the amount of
Halbrand.
times that like Halbrand's like, I just want to live here in peace. This place is a great opportunity. The Southlands sucked. Leave me the fuck alone. And she keeps going to the queen, going like, oh yeah, Lord Halbrand, I totally got him on my side. Trust me. Uh,
She did, technically
and
she
then like,
did.
to be fair though, dude, the twist later that like Halbrand actually is Sauron in disguise and he's been manipulating her the whole time.
Sauron
I
Deceiver.
I actually really liked that scene because I thought that was like hella cool.
Yeah.
Except for the whole like, be my bride, and I was like, I don't know if he would give a shit about that, but okay,
I mean, the whole thing is he's still using her. He uses everyone.
that's
That's all.
true.
He like deceives everyone, which
And
they
Sauron,
changed the way he does it. He does help with the forging of the rings with Celebrimbor. It's just in a different, if I recall, he
he
shows up
teaches
as an
them
elf.
how to mix metals, which apparently, as the greatest elven smiths, they didn't know you could do that.
I think they would just were because they look at things from such a pure perspective, I guess.
That's fair. I
And
guess that makes
he's like,
sense.
yo, what if you tried this though, and y'all come to collect later? Because the whole thing was they altered his plans. He wanted two for him and Galadriel. He
That
just
was
wanted those two
cool.
rings.
Yeah,
And what's going to happen is,
I
it's
I
going to
did.
end up where he sees that there's more rings, and
Yeah,
that's when he goes, I see what I have to do now and what I have to forge and who I can trick.
I did love when Galadriel comes to Celebrimbor and I forget who else was helping out at the time.
Elrond?
Yeah, Elrond, and was like, yeah, we can't just do two rings. Is there enough material for three? Like, well, why do we need to do that? It's like, because one corrupts, two divides, three there can be unity. And I was just like, that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah,
That
no, it's
actually
pretty
makes a lot
good.
of sense. So like, you are right. Like, maybe that's like the hint that she's starting to like think more before acting, which,
But it's also, I think that's how the start of, this is how we don't, like, they don't know it yet, but this is how they stem the control, where the
yeah.
one ring where it corrupts the men, and the dwarves are able to withstand it, but this is how the elves withstand it.
Yeah, that's like one thing I'm most interested to
The dwarf
see.
rings just get fucked up a lot.
Yeah,
A lot.
we don't do we learn much about what happened to the dwarven rings? Because we like,
Some of
they
them
just got
got,
lost, I thought.
they get lost. Some, I think Sauron gets maybe a couple, but like most get lost. Some
Mm,
get fucked up by dragons, balrogs, you name it. It's really, honestly, it's hard to say. I'm hoping they'll explain at least where they start off in this, considering you have to show the dwarf lords getting them.
yeah.
Um, but I want to get to that
God,
stuff at
like
the end.
Durin is literally one of my favorite characters in
Yeah.
the entire
Well,
show.
so the way I see Galadriel's change was she starts to let go of the vengeance, let go of the kind of like blind mission, let go of the warrior. It starts off with her kind of from the volcano eruption. She goes and Halbrand's stopping her from killing Avar, or is it Adar? Is it Adar or Avar? I always forget.
The Uruk that just looks like an elf.
Yeah, the original, because the whole thing is they're like, yeah, elves were mutilated and fucked up, and I'm like, oh, so they turned into orcs, and it's like, no, they just kind of look still like elves,
Yeah,
but
I
they
wasn't
just kind of
expecting that twist that he is an Uruk. I was like, oh, because I mean, I guess I should have seen that coming because my first guess was that he was an elf that whose like light already faded, but he didn't die like all the like Gilgalad thought was going to happen when everyone's light fades. But because he mentioned at some
Adar.
point
Yeah,
like you've been lied to, and I thought he was going to say, I thought he meant like you don't need your light to survive, but I guess that's still kind of true because that is literally what the Uruks are supposed to be, is like elves that have had their like light taken from them and they're like
and
twisted.
tortured, yeah, by Melkor or
Yeah.
Morgoth. I believe he started off as Melkor, and then his name changed to Morgoth, if I recall correctly.
When he stole
Um,
the light of the trees.
yeah, and God, fucking Silmarillion's so cool, guys. Just read it. uh, so Galadriel starts letting go after the fight, after not killing Adar, not kind of going for vengeance anymore. She gives Theo her sword as the start. She lets go of Finrod's dagger to forge the rings. That's another
Yeah, that was
piece.
cool.
And then that's kind of where I see the warrior dropping, because I don't think we're going to see her wear the armor anymore. I don't think we're going to see her uh be a warrior anymore, because that was the end of it. Instead, she's going to be more of the she's becoming what we expect her to be, because now she's like, I understand my place here.
Well,
And
and now she's gonna have a ring of power.
exactly, so I think that we're going to see a lot more of the Galadriel we know in the coming seasons from there. But at least for this season, I understand what they were doing. Like I said, I completely understand it. I just didn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
um
No, it's
then
just hard
there's
for me to get
Halbrand.
behind like
Yeah.
super arrogant characters.
And then for Halbrand, he was a very interesting character. They were trying to really go like, guess who's Sauron? Who's it gonna be, guys? I don't
Yeah.
know. And I'm like, it's probably Halbrand. I honestly like, I don't want to be that dude that's like after going, I knew it the whole time, but I'm like, bro, he's a
No,
smith.
it
Sauron's a smith. It's the same guy. Like
yeah, there were
in the
hints.
also Silmarillion, he is a smith starting off, and then eventually he's also a werewolf and a vampire and all this other shit. He can shapeshift. It's fucking crazy.
They
But
also laid on really thick that it's like the traveler or the stranger that fell from the sky is like he's definitely Sauron, and it was like it's probably
bro,
not.
that's a wizard. Because the
Yeah,
whole thing is the stars, and they're called the Astari, and that whole thing of them saying it, I already knew that. At the point where I'm like,
from the moment
would
he was
everyone?
talking
I'm
to bugs,
sure
I was like, that's Gandalf.
the point of like where they're, I'm assuming the average person watching this that doesn't go into the books or anything are going between Mr. Mysterious Stranger, maybe Halbrand, and then Eminem, and going,
Yeah,
which one of you is Sauron? And maybe someone probably thought the bearded guy in Numenor was that, but I already know what he is. And I'm like, okay, for sure it's not the wizard, but Halbrand, it makes sense, like I said, being the blacksmith, and the whole thing of eventually the blacksmith helps Celebrimbor forge the rings. And I'm like, holy shit, this is him. It
yeah.
doesn't feel like it. They're doing such a good job. It's like when you read the Red Wedding, and then you're watching it and you go, oh, maybe they won't do it, even though I know it's gonna happen, and then they do it, and I go, well, I knew it was gonna happen, but they really convinced me for a second that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So they did a very good job of Halbrand not looking like Sauron, even though he
Well,
was.
because like so much of the time he was just like, leave me alone. I don't want any part of this. But
Yeah.
apparently that was part of his plan the whole time.
And then when he
And
does
like,
go, like he feels like he's helping people to the point where he
yeah,
stops her from killing Adar. He helps people when the volcano erupts. Like he is really risking everything. And you're like, wow, Sauron, you're kind of a nice guy, even though you're a piece of shit.
yeah. I just love the turn when Galadriel's like, the last one of your line died like generations ago.
Thousand years ago.
Like who the fuck are you? And he's just like, you know who I am or whatever. Like
I
the
go by
way,
many names, and I'm just
yeah,
like, oh no.
and just like the way he turns, like because back in Numenor, she was like, I'm making you a king potentially. People could say that you're taking advantage of my like connections or whatever, like
Funny
to
you
try
should
to,
say that.
yeah. And now it's like I was using you the whole time. Like it
He
wasn't you
used
that,
me
yeah,
for
like it
land
wasn't,
development.
like I love that whole turn. It was like you weren't using me, I was using you literally the entire time. And like you were cast out of like whatever the elven city was, like by your king when you like got mutinied for like a little thing. What are they gonna do when they find out you've been working with me? Like, and I was just like, shit, that's a good point. I mean,
Yeah,
I get that he's been literally manipulating her the whole time, and that's what he's known for. But that's still like a good point that she did help him a lot. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
a lot. Um, I think Halbrand was a really good character. I
yeah.
think also he was a good he has the advantage of not being from the movies already like Galadriel was, where we already have a kind of depiction of her and expectation of her. He is a blank slate, even though he is fucking Sauron and he's in the movies. But the way they perceive him, you actually want to root for him for a good amount of time until you're like, stop, please. We know what you're gonna do. And I don't want to see Eregion. Is that how they said it in the show? Eregion?
That sounds familiar.
I always thought it was Eregion, but I guess you say the G differently. It's the so for those that don't know, so far right now there's two elven lands. There's Lindon, which later on
Right,
is the
that's what it
Grey
was called.
Havens. That's where the elves depart. But Lindon is the capital. That's where Gilgalad rules from. Celebrimbor, the elven smith, rules Eregion. And later on, we get the Woodland realm. I don't think it's established yet in the Greenwood, later on Mirkwood, which King Thranduil, father of Legolas, resides over. And then eventually we get Lothlorien from Galadriel, which that has not occurred yet. She has not gone through Moria to do that, which they do the speak friend and enter. And that's the reason I'm pretty sure why they have that. And it was originally so she could lead people to Lothlorien originally. Um, Obviously, that's not in the show, and it hasn't happened
Yeah.
yet, but I'm pretty sure it will. But like I said, we'll get to the stuff at the end of what we expect to happen.
God,
Um,
I also, speaking of the Great Havens, I hated that Galadriel waited till like literally the last second to jump off the boat. And I was just like, you could have jumped off at any fucking time, and you waited until like you literally have to swim across an entire sea.
so I guess going into the next area, do we want to hit up Numenor next since it's associated with Galadriel and
Yeah,
them?
sure, because that is like the next place that she went to with Halbrand.
Yeah, and it's a cool place.
Could have been cooler
It could have been cooler.
because the
I
Numenorians are supposed to be like basically Superman.
Numenorians are Dunedain. They are men who have much. They're not like immortal like elves, but they have like
They live like
extended
150 to
lives.
200 years or something like that.
Yeah, they're very very
They're all like
big.
7 feet tall and like super jacked.
If you all recall in Two Towers, Aowen asks Aragorn like how old he is because he's like I rode
He's
with
like
your
72.
I rode with like your grandfather before, and she's like you can't be like he says 84. He's 84
Oh,
years
that's what it
old,
was.
and
Yeah,
he looks like he's 38
yeah,
maybe.
yeah. He's
Uh
basically middle aged.
yeah, he's not even close to being like dead, so he's got another good 100 years
Like
or
a whole
so.
other lifespan,
Yeah,
basically.
he's not even at the halfway point. I think he lives to 216 or something. I forget what his actual death age was. But Numenorians have long lifespans. They look so fucking boring. They
Dude, all they talked about in Numenor was like guild shit. And
they
I
were
didn't
just
give a
kind of
shit.
it was these weird xenophobic people that just didn't want to associate with anything, which does make sense for what happens later.
Well,
With
especially they talked a lot about like why they're specifically mistrustful of elves. So like that made sense why they were like not cool with Galadriel walking around, because they were like, yeah, no, elves have not done anything good for us ever. So get away from our island, please.
Uh, Otherwise, we have three, I guess 3 to 4 notable characters. I don't really care about Isildur's sister or his
Yeah,
friends.
the
They're there.
artist.
Yeah, I don't care. We have Elendil and Isildur, who Elendil at this point is a captain, and Isildur is
I hated Isildur.
just a son of a captain who's just kind of like, oh, guys. And
Dude, he's such a fuck up.
it's so fucking weird that they're not king yet. Like, Elendil becomes king. He is the king of
Yeah,
men,
dude, I'm like, how
and Isildur is the prince who
yeah, I'm like,
later on
how
becomes king.
how is this the Isildur that throws the like, I literally do
Does
not
not
see
throw. Does not throw the ring.
does not throw. Joe was supposed to throw the ring in the
I can see that this dude gets corrupted.
yeah, that's very true. That's fair.
Because he's always looking off and he's, oh, he's gonna look at a little ring and then get killed by ox in a forest.
Ugh.
But he seems whatever. I think it's a whole thing of they're gonna grow into it, and I get it. I just didn't care about him this season. Elendil, I'm just so curious. Like, I don't feel like there's much to say about Elendil. He's a wise king, not even king. He's a wise captain
Yeah, he's
who
basically just like the captain of the guard,
he
seems
understands
like.
the old elven ways and everything else, and he's going to become king. And something's going to happen for that to occur. Otherwise, we have the queen, Regent Mariel, who is
Why
fine.
did she go to Middle Earth with everyone?
She wanted to see what was the big fuss, and then she saw everything she needed to until she couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, she seems fine. She's a cool character. She's not like upstanding, but I did like the whole like. I will say the Numenorians have cool armor,
Yeah.
and she has pretty. I loved her headdress, the fucking sun helmet that she had.
Oh yeah.
That was really cool. I was sad when she kind of got fucked over, but she has a cool little like blind band now that's red, and I'm like, okay, that looks kind of cool at least.
Yeah, I was
Uh,
really confused because she in one scene was like, "No one needs to know that I'm blind," and then in the next scene, she's wearing a blindfold. And I'm like, I think everyone knows now.
I think she needed time to kind of like
Maybe. Yeah.
take care of it because now they're on a full boat journey where no one's going to be able to like. She can't really hide that from anyone.
Yeah, that would be very difficult. Although, but she was still practicing how many steps to get through the hole, though. So that was confusing to me.
Well, that's for her saving face of like I'm not a bumbling like person that
Yeah,
can't
I could see
do
that.
things on her. She needs to. She still, even though she lost her sight, she wants to maintain strength, especially
Yeah, she needs to present regally.
exactly, especially considering like who she's going to be going up against now. Uh, and I'm trying
Yeah,
to
I did love that she
find.
was so like, pardon the pun, burned by Sauron that she was like, "Oh fuck this guy! I'm coming back with an even bigger army."
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the um her, I guess, cousin, or I'm pretty sure it's her cousin. He's the guy with the very heavy beard, the dark beard, who's
Oh,
like, "Oh, we're gonna. Why the hell would I want to stop this? Like, we want to take
yeah,
advantage of the people there."
that was
Um,
I did like that scene where his son was like, "Why would you go to war for the elves?" He's like, "For money, dumbass."
and power,
Yeah,
and the whole thing. He's like, "I want tribute. I want these because we're better than these humans that
yeah.
are
Like
over
if we
there."
save the Southlands and we get their king, in our pocket, we have so many more resources and shit.
Yeah, and the whole
It's
thing
smart.
here is, I guess, I'm like, I really want to say it now, but I'm like, I guess save it for after. I'm just let's just analyze the characters now, and then I'll say everything that what's going to happen after is what's going to be crazy. But there's not really much else to say with the Numenorians. Like, they're kind of just kind of there. There's no development really that occurs with them. Uh, which one do you want to go next? So we still have Elrond Durin, we have the Harfoots, and we have the Southlands.
Let's save Durnan.
You want to say that for last?
Yeah, let's save that for last because that
All
was
right.
probably the best. So
So
like,
of the other two, which one do you want to do next
let's
then?
talk about the Southlands first because that's I got the least to talk about because I was not interested for the most part.
Okay, Southlands were very whatever. They're owned by, I dug that it was like, hey, you guys helped Melkor in the
Yeah,
past.
they were like descendants of the Darker Army, I guess.
Yeah, and now they were being pretty much it's America occupying Germany, like, hey. So don't fucking do shit again, guys. And the elves are just America, like, hey,
Yeah.
we're just keeping the peace. But you have Adar, who's the Uruk, and we already talked about that really. Uh and having that full tunnel system, and I'm like, what the fuck is the tunnel for? And the reveal for it was actually really cool the way they did pull that off, where they caused that eruption of the
Yeah.
volcano that turns
That was
out
cool.
to be fucking Mount Doom. And I'm like, that's Mount Doom. Wait, we're in Mordor. Like, it didn't click in
Yeah.
my head for a while until the eruption. I'm like, that couldn't be it.
It was such a
Be
cool
it.
scene
Oh my
until
god, it's it.
in my opinion, they ruined it when they were like, "What do we call this land now?" And I was just like, they just had the screen kind of pan up and it had the text like the Southlands, and then it just got replaced with Mordor, and I was like,
Under new management.
really? I don't know. They could have had someone actually say it, but
Yeah, but we have the two main characters here are Arandir and Bronwyn, or Bronwyn, sorry. And Arandir is a Sylvan elf, not an Eldorian elf, so he's a lesser elf. If you all recall The Hobbit, Tariel, played by Evangeline Lilly, is like, "Oh, I am but a lowly Sylvan elf." If you remember her saying that, but there is like different elves. There's like two or three. It's either Noldor, uh, Sylvan, and there might be one more. I can't remember, but Sylvan's like the low tier, and that's what he is. And he's part of the guard there, and they do I get what they're trying to do here too. They're doing a Baron and Luthien story of him and Bronwyn, or if y'all want to be more, I guess, current, a Aragorn and Arwen. I almost said Aowen.
yeah, I get those names mixed up
Story there
so
as well.
often. They sound so similar.
But that's the whole thing. Like a lot of people always through the Tolkien text, you get that like Aragorn and Arwen are kind of like the second coming of Baron and Luthien, who are so pivotal in Similarion. I'm gonna keep saying Similarion in this episode. It's gonna be insane. But uh you see what they're trying to do with this one, and I do get it. I didn't like it in The Hobbit because that was fucking stupid with an elf and a dwarf, and just the way they pulled it off is why they didn't pull it off. In this, I
I
thought it was
literally don't
fine.
remember that.
Good, don't remember. Like, I'm glad you
I
don't.
don't remember most of the Hobbit trilogy, if I'm gonna be honest.
That's fine. There's nothing to miss. Uh,
There's one
but
orc with like the hook. I remember that.
oh, as Ogdify, yeah. The point is, these two are fine. They don't do anything exceptional. They're just kind of there, and I do enjoy that. Like he's kind of going against what his people were doing there until they got fucked over. So it didn't matter in the end because they all die. But uh, I was I would say I was more enjoying it than not enjoying that whole area of the South, because I guess I was more so curious. I'm like, who are the Southron people? I don't remember them in anything previously, and I'm trying to think. I'm like, these aren't Easterlings. Like Easterlings, you would have literally just all Middle Eastern looking people, even though the actress for Bronwyn is actually Iranian. But
Hmm.
the the rest of that, like it's like apart from two people, they're kind of just white for the most part. And I'm like, Easterlings are very much Middle Eastern, and I didn't get what they were trying to go with that. And I'm like thinking Rohirrim, but I'm like, it can't be Rohirrim. They're not Rohirrim. There's not even fucking horses here. So they're not even proto Rohirrim, at least not yet. And they're just, yeah, they're people that were living in proto Mordor. And
Yeah.
that was very cool. And it did throw me off when they did the whole plot of the tunnels, the water's going to hit the lava. I thought that was the Balrog, and it was instead Mount Doom. So that was
Mhm.
that's what did catch me off guard, because that's not what I was expecting. I'm like, oh, y'all want to fight now? You got to fight a Balrog? Oh no, you didn't.
I also love that it's like a making Mount Doom has two purposes. Like one, it's now like uh Sauron's forge to build like the One Ring eventually, and it also just blackens the sky and makes it so that this like orc army can go about and do shit during the day and not get like burned by the sun. It's
Yep. And the
pretty
whole
cool.
thing is like over time, Mordor casts a shadow farther and farther. And that's how the orcs are able to expand and get to other areas.
Yeah.
We're gonna see that. Plus, they fight at night still. So kind of
Yeah,
think like until that shadow reaches farther, they're gonna have to still keep doing that kind of thing.
for sure. No,
Uh,
I liked, at least for the Southland stuff, I was more interested in, like, everything going on with the elf dude. I keep forgetting his name. Um, I don't know, I just
Adar?
thought not the dark one.
Oh, are you talking about Outlander?
I guess so, yeah. Like, the one that got, like, captured for a while and, like,
Yeah,
tried to lead, yeah. Like, I just thought, like, he was a really cool character and just, like, yeah, when he tried to lead, like, a prisoner escape and it just, like, failed utterly,
his captain
and
gets killed. I was like, fuck.
yeah, like, that I was not expecting that, and, like, I thought he was a really cool like, fighter, and, like, I thought it was really cool his relationship with the Southlands woman,
Bronwyn.
Bronwyn?
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything I was saying, the whole Barian Luthien stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, and, like, my only issue is I was just like, like, why did she make herself, like, try to become, like, the leader of, like, all the villages? Like, I don't
I think
know.
because it's because she did something that the others didn't, and she dreamed.
I guess
She was a
so.
dreamer. She
Yeah.
she had she had feelings of not feelings of grandeur, but she felt like there was more goals to achieve than what they were just doing. And even though it did feel very generic the way they did it, in
Yeah.
terms
I
of
think
like,
that's what I
come on,
why I felt
people, and they're
weird.
like, who are you? I'm the dude. Okay, we got it. We're
Yeah.
gonna follow you now. Like,
But then,
um,
like, I also liked the scene where she, like, has this, like, rousing, speech where she's just like, "Yeah, like, we might die here tonight, but at least we'll die free. Like, let's all like, try to fight and gain our freedom from, like, this dark elf dude and whatnot,
yeah.
and, like, all the goblins and orcs." And then, like, one of the random dudes in the audience is like, "What if we don't do that and we just do what the guy says and
What if we
join
do
him,
the
and
opposite?
then we don't die? Let's just do that." And, like,
They end up
literally
killing their own people.
dude, like, literally half of the people left the fort, and I was just like, "Damn, that's fucking cold,
And
actually."
most of them get killed by their own people.
Yeah, and then you see, like, oh, that's why you don't just, like, do what the bad guy says.
Yeah, it's like it
Uh,
worked out for it. I mean, he even made him kill
that scene was
the
hard because, like, he
Theo's
literally,
friend gets killed by him.
well, he grabs, like, the one kid, and
Yeah, that's what Theo's friend.
he's just like, "Kill this kid," and he's just like, "No, no, but I know you. You know me. Please don't." I was just like, "Jesus, that's,"
Gonna do it for the Dark Lord.
yeah, and he does it too because he's,
Yeah.
like, he's still around later. He's the
I
guy.
mean,
It
he's the
wasn't,
fucking one that opens the gate
yeah,
and sets
it
off Mount Doom, the
and
shithead.
that was interesting to see a human that was, like, actually a true believer in, like, the Dark Lord and that, like, Sauron will return and we should, as long as we stay
I mean,
loyal.
you know who that got you know what they got influence from, right? You know who he's influenced by?
Oh,
The South will rise again.
I
Yeah,
can see that.
it's yeah, that's what it is. He's basically just a fucking Confederate. It's insane. To the point where
But
you
yeah,
even hear him, he's like the one kind of he already because he's a human and he has a face compared to the orcs, like he already grew ranked of like pretty much
yeah,
he's Adar's right hand dude at this point over the orcs where he's like, all hail the magic conch. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
yeah,
So
also, I couldn't get into Bronwyn's kid. I thought he was weird and annoying.
yeah, I mean,
Like,
he's just a moody kid.
yeah,
That's
I think that's
probably
it. There just wasn't much to his
I
character.
think it didn't help that we were already getting that with the Sealdor, and it's just like, and on top of that,
Yeah,
Galadriel's arrogance, and I'm just, you can't have too many characters with that type of that obnoxious
yeah, maybe that's
feeling
why
makes things too
didn't like
imbalanced. It's
him.
fine if there's one, but having three was what kind of had a negative aspect for the show in that sense, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the South. Next, the Harfoots. Oh boy, little Hobbit folk.
I was into them for like most of the first episode, and then from there, I just like, as soon as they got to the point where they were like, "Oh yeah, we sometimes just abandon people on our pilgrimage because like it might lead to more people dying if we stop to help them."
Where are you
And I was just like,
going? I
"What?"
don't know. It's just fucking migrating little weirdos.
And then later on, when Philly, is that her name? Like
Nori?
Nori, when she like uh was getting all depressed because like literally their whole village got burned, I guess.
Oh, and Eminem burned their village.
Yeah, and like her dad is just like, "We're Harfoots. We may not fight dragons or like fight in armies and stuff like that, but we do one thing better than anyone. We're true to ourselves. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You abandon people on the road all the fucking time. You
Yeah,
have a list of people you've left.
and this was another negative aspect of the show is they were really, really trying to force the Hobbit heartfelt
Yeah.
feeling of like, oh, hobbits will always surprise you, blah 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 blah, and the whole thing is Harfoots are proto hobbits. Uh,
I was kind of
and
into the like migratory thing, and then they just like hide every time like travelers show up. So
and
they
it's like
gotta
why, and it's just like cause.
yeah. Well, they got a hint of like that's what hobbits do, like because there's like a intro to the Hobbit book where it's just like yeah, hobbits still exist. They're just really good at hiding, and they can hear you from like miles off, and they'll just like hide.
Yeah, they just want to be they want to do their own thing and not be they don't want to be troubled by the outside world is the whole thing. And with these ones, which it's I get the whole World War One analogy of going overseas and stuff. It totally makes sense. But the whole thing with the Harfoots, it just felt forced. And
Also, didn't
I
feel like
was
it went very
getting
far.
they didn't there was not really any development. It was more they were just a foil for the stranger who turned out to it was pretty much everything I expected, but I was trying to hope that it wasn't who I thought it was because I'm
Because
like
it makes no sense.
because it's just so easy. I'm like, dude, give me someone else. We have 5 of you. Why do you have to do the same one
Get
over
it?
and over and over?
Gandalf landed near the Harfoots. That's why he likes the hobbits later.
And here's the thing. They act like Gandalf is the only one there when he's not even the first one to land.
No, it
And
wasn't that supposed to be Sauron? Saruman.
Saruman is the first one there, and Gandalf is the third. One of the blue wizards gets there before him, I'm pretty sure still. And then it's Gandalf, and then later on they send the other blue wizard and Radagast. Uh, but I'm not sure.
Was Radagast a blue wizard?
No, he was brown wizard. There were two
Right.
blues, Radagast,
That's
Gandalf,
what I thought.
Saruman. Yeah,
No,
so
I just thought I heard you say blue wizard.
yeah, I said blue wizard a couple times, and then I
No, I
said
mean for
Radagast. Oh,
never
okay.
mind.
Yeah. Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get this giant dude, and immediately I'm like, it's not Sauron. And I'm like, Sauron didn't fall from the sky. It's a wizard, a starry star. The whole thing with the star is fucking
Yeah,
wizard.
where the hell did that like prophecy come from that Sauron
Oh,
would fall from
fucking
the sky
that
when
was
like
some bullshit. I don't
he's
know.
just been
Eminem tried to
around for
rap
like
it, and
forever?
didn't work out. I
Like
didn't get it.
he just never left? He was just traveling around
They
the world?
said, "Would the real Slim Shady please stand up?" And he was like, "You
Eh.
got the wrong guy." And then they went, "Oh shit, he's over there. Sorry, Dre," and then bounced. I don't
I
know what
hated that
happened.
scene when Nori was just like, "No, he went the other way." And it's like, "Do you think that would work?" She's tracking him with it's like she's tracking him with fucking magic. You think she's gonna be like, "Oh, well, my spell says he went the other way. Like, are you sure he went this way? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this random stranger is more trustworthy than my spells."
No, I. What was weird was they were just okay pointing out. Obviously, he's Gandalf. For those that don't get it, yet, he's
Yeah,
fucking Gandalf.
I
The
never
the
once for a second like believed them when they were like, he's the dark one. He's Sauron."
Yeah, you knew already that he wasn't Sauron, and the fact that okay, he's already doing wizard shit by doing magic. Sauron doesn't do wizard shit. Two, it's okay. I was hoping for Sauron and the Blue Wizard because I think it would be more interesting. But the minute you have a fucking giant magic man with hobbit people, it's Gandalf.
They didn't put him in
Immediately,
like a
that's just
brown
Gandalf.
like robe or gray robe like Gandalf wears.
Yeah. And the whole thing there is okay, so he's basically this is how he becomes attached to the Shire, attached to hobbits. It starts here with the Harfoots. I keep wanting to say Proudfoots because
I
it
know,
sounds
right?
similar. And then I
Well,
immediately
because that actually
after
came up in the Lord of the Rings.
I know, but it's
Proud
funny because
feet.
I know that's the thing. I think Harfoots, and then I almost want to say Proudfoots, and immediately after want to go past feet, and then go, but like
uh,
fucking. Um, he does all Hobbit shit. You get it. He's attached to that. That's how that relationship starts. The other thing that was incredibly easy to tell was they even start pulling fucking lines from the
Oh
movie,
yeah.
but also the analogies, the way Gandalf would talk to Frodo
Especially with
and
the whole
Pippin.
like follow your nose thing. It was like
That was yeah, that was from
the
the
Mordor line,
fucking
really? No, sorry,
Moria.
not Mordor, Moria.
Yeah, and it's like follow your nose, and you're like, okay, that's like it is literally now 300% sure it's Gandalf. But before that, when he talks to the Nori in the beginning, when he finally his full speech, that is a very Gandalf talk that he'd give to Frodo and Moria or
Yeah.
Pippin in Minas Tirith, and that
The
was
it's
like
like
very
it's not a adventure unless you share it with someone.
yeah, but also like
Yeah.
all the stuff he talked about with it too, just everything around that conversation, you could feel Gandalf there. So
It was
it's
also really weird
already
to me that he went from barely able to speak to completely fluent in like 2
it's
scenes.
from the staff and what, Eminem was doing to him. He gave him the full album, and he got to listen to
Uh,
it, and it unlocked all his features. Sorry,
they
guys, that was
they
fucking
upload
just the three fucking dark women. I'm like, "Who the fuck are they?" I don't okay, I don't know what
I was gonna make a Matrix joke about
thing
like one of the agents in
they were pretty
up
much agents,
like
honestly.
uploading the language module to his brain.
Honestly, I didn't understand what they were. They if someone
Well, they were
obviously,
supposed to be
okay,
like Sauron's emissaries, but they were like the worst because they were way off.
yeah, that's the whole thing. How are they fucking emissaries then? Like, they're just trash.
Oh, and they were going off like a false uh prophecy that he would fall from the sky. Like,
The only thing I could see, because I
what was
don't
their
think
point?
well, that's the thing, I don't think they're in the Silmarillion at all. That would be the
No,
only place they can derive from. The only thing I could think of is maybe one of them is a vampire. But then no, wait, no, they
uh,
both there's a specific great like werewolf and vampire that work for Sauron, and they both get killed, and the elves wear their skin. It's pretty funny when
weird.
they sneak in dressed up as them. They're like, "Hey, it's me," but like, uh, I guess there's some Sauron Melkor servant when Sauron was in Angband. That's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, guys. I'm not gonna get into it, but at a certain point during the whole Melkor shit, Sauron had a fortress called Angband, and maybe they're from that. That's all I could think of. I don't know who the fuck they are. Maybe there's someone that's a much better tiered Tolkien lore person that could probably explain it, but much better than I can. They probably know, and I don't. I have no fucking idea. I just read the books. I didn't get like super into all the other like Tolkien stuff. I really want to, but I only like there's a lot of stuff I wiki and went through, but that's that's not my jurisdiction. So I don't really know what they are. Otherwise, I guess let's get into the is that who else we got still? In
Well, Durin
Southlands, we did the
and
yeah, so Durin and Elrond, which I also want to say really fast. Actually, let's do them, and then right after, let's just briefly talk Celebrimbor and Gil-galad.
okay,
Uh, but we get Durin the fourth. We also have Durin the third. We have Disa, and we have Elrond. And I gotta say, this is probably the best part of the show.
oh, absolutely.
This is where I don't really have any complaints compared to, ironic, I guess, the other four areas that had complaints. This is the only one that I didn't.
My
Uh,
only complaint with this is that like the whole point of the mithril thing, just it's like the elves are losing their light somehow, and if they don't replenish the light from the mithril, they'll all die eventually. And I
they'll
thought that
become
was
mortal.
yeah, and I thought that was really strange because I don't think that was ever a thing. I mean, not
They
that it
made they I'm pretty sure they made that up for this because the whole thing
yeah.
there's a gap here that I don't think Tolkien covers it, but he does it not in detail. It's like hey, this is the overall thing without any of the like on the streets type of stuff. And right now the show is doing the on the streets type of stuff.
Yeah. It's just weird to me that um they were like they wanted to start a trade deal with the dwarves because they thought they needed a shit ton of
Mithril.
mithril. And then it ended up they literally were able to solve everything with like a little tiny chunk, which fine, but it
Because
just makes it feel like
they
there was no need for that whole thing.
well, the whole thing they hadn't comprehended it yet. The whole time they're just thinking we need it for every elf that's still on Middle Earth.
Yeah, I guess so.
And when they get to it, it's Halbrand that changes the whole thing with him and Celebrimbor and go, hey, you could just do it with like one person. You just have to
Yeah,
amplify it.
certain yeah, certain metal mixes can actually amplify the qualities of both.
Yeah. And, we get that whole thing. But Elrond himself, we have Hugo Weaving as Elrond in Lord of the Rings. This version of Elrond is not
I was
necessarily the
worried
same
I
either.
wasn't gonna like him, but I actually ended up thinking he was just fine.
Yeah, because right now we're in. Ironically enough, we have Galadriel and Elrond that are polar opposites of each other at this point. Like, Galadriel was in a very arrogant state, and we're gonna get to a point where she's very much just like, we have to work together. I'm wise, I'm calm, I'm controlled. I know everyone's needed for this to the point where I'll send my people to die at Helm's Deep for it. And Elrond is like, I'm trusting, I want to help people. I'm not at the point yet where I watch men fucking corrupt and go do dark shit, and also the dwarves become incredibly greedy, and
Yeah, like
my friend's already dead, so like
like watching
we're on our own
Isildur
now.
walk away from Mount Doom basically destroyed his faith in humanity.
Yeah, not to mention like the whole thing, he has a friendship with Durin the Fourth here that seemed like a very much best friend thing. He very well outlives Durin and then multiple of his descendants. So you
Dude,
can
well,
see
yeah, because
how
he's
the
immortal.
dwarven relationship kind of falters there too, considering
And
also the dwarves don't become as friendly as they used to be for quite some time. Honestly, not like after this, after all the stuff with Durin and shit, they don't become friendly again until Gimli, honestly.
yeah,
Like this, there is the stuff in The Hobbit, but that's more of out of necessity than friendship,
yeah.
than
Durin was
anything.
probably my favorite character of the entire season. Just like he had such emotional moments. Like when
Even with
he
Elrond, he'd start crying.
dude, like when he was like mining alone with Elrond, because he's like, if maybe if just we can show my father that we can mine the mithril safely, maybe it'll change his mind, and maybe we can save you, my friend. And like even the moment where he's like, "You're telling me that the fate of the entire elven race is in my hands." Say that again.
He just loved that, but
Yeah,
also the
but then like the
when he
scene where
finds out they can't do it, like even after all that,
and
and
he's like
Elrond's like, "I have to
crying.
leave." Yeah, he's like, "It's not goodbye, my friend," and you feel that. That actually, that was probably the best that was the most emotional scene in the entire
Well,
season.
Well, except for maybe the scene where he's like having like a full on screaming match with his father about
Oh, that
like
was crazy.
how, dude, the way his father ended that, where he's like, "You're telling me to just forget about someone that is as much a brother to me as if he had been like fired in my mother's like womb or whatever." And his father, like, that was like the worst offense he could have said. So the way he gets up, he's just like, "How dare you?
You're not Prince
How
anymore.
dare you?" And he literally disowns him.
Yeah,
I like that shit. That's why like one of my few complaints about the last episode was just we didn't get any more Durin or anything, and I was just like, no, no, you can't end it there. Shit.
his part in this season is done.
I
Yeah,
guess
he
because I
was
guess they did get
really.
enough mithril to get the job done, but and then like yeah, just the scene where they break into the cavern with all the mithril and it's like massive and there's just so much mithril like veins all over the place. It was insane.
And then you see Mr. B down there, and
Yeah, that
you're
was
like, "Oh
weird that the
boy."
Balrog is like awake,
And he,
but
like, does a full roar and no one
yeah,
hears.
that was
Everyone's like,
weird.
"Must have been the wind." But,
Yeah.
I think, like, he is such a great him and Elrond together have such a great personality, and you know what? It's funny because you see the trailer, you see Disa, and I'm just like, "Oh boy, here we go." Like, she's like,
Dude, I
"Ah!"
love her.
And then, like, I'm like, "Where's the beard?" And then I watch this show, I watch her, and I'm like, "Fuck, I love her." Like,
Yeah.
she's great. Dude,
Dude, she's got her man's back like so hard.
she got his back, but also she's got Elrond's back. She does like she very much just goes off of what's right. And I really love that about her. And it's such an interesting thing of like, okay, we never really get dwarves in the books, a dwarf woman. At least none
No,
I no
we get the one
notable.
joke where it's just like, yeah, they're
Yeah.
often mistaken for dwarven men because of the beard.
And they
Like that
do,
might be
like,
real.
yeah, and it's because the whole thing is they might have been there might have been some dwarven woman in the Silmarillion, I just don't remember. There were none of notable, like, name to remember. But in the Hobbit movies, they do show them, in the flashbacks, back when they're, like, doing the whole, like, Smaug come in to blow all that shit up, you do see bearded dwarf women. Not like heavy, thick beards, but you do see them with like little beards and stuff. And you're like, oh shit, there you go. Peter Jackson showed us finally. This we do get them, and they don't have beards, or at least I think we really just see like a couple of them, um, including Disa. But she was really cool. Her personality was, like I said, really awesome, really just pure of just like do the right thing. And I love that she was just kind of like mom and wife, where she's just like, Elrond's like, I guess I'll be going now in the beginning. And she looks at Durin and is like, and he's like,
Yeah.
fine, okay, fine. It's like so good. And honestly, like right now, my ranking of characters is probably Elrond, Durin, and Disa are my top three
Oh,
characters already for the
absolutely.
show.
Like
Followed
literally
by
every scene
like,
that took place in like that mountain area was like, but just anything with those characters I loved.
yeah, them. I think my top five is easily those three plus. I want to say Halbrand and Gilgalad. Halbrand because of how much personality he does have, and Gilgalad because I just fucking love Gilgalad. You guys gotta understand, I've had such an infatuation with Gilgalad like not just that little scene in the movie, but like from reading the books and seeing how cool he is, and just like all the shit he does, and you're like, fuck, this dude's dead. And we finally are getting a depiction of him, and it's still he looks exactly like he does in the movie prologue. Exactly like that. It's
Hmm.
like the most spot on transfer. And Gilgalad, you keep thinking of him if you like agree with Elrond, if you agree with Galadriel, especially, you're like, Gilgalad's wrong. And then you listen to him, and this dude is like the most uncorrupted of all of the elves. This dude is like, oh, no, we don't need that. That's impure. We're not following this shit. We don't need vengeance. We don't need any of this. And he's thinking like 10 steps ahead of everyone else, where you could tell he's not being like turned to it like another thought, because he's just like, listen, I get what you're saying here, but if you keep hunting Sauron, like it's nothing good will come of this. And what happens? She literally starts working with Sauron. He was
Yeah.
right. And the whole thing with Elrond too, to an extent where, it at least pushes them in the right direction of, listen, give us a chance. We could figure this out. We just need a small amount of time. Trust us. And it does work out. But this is, you guys got to understand, like, you may not like him just because I guess he's antagonizing to the other Elven main characters. This is the guy that's going to be fighting Sauron at the end. Like, this is the dude that goes one-on-one well, I guess like sort of one-on-one he's like one of the main kings that fights Sauron. It's like him and Elendil. These two guys are going to be going toe to toe with Sauron. Isildur later just goes, "Father, oh fuck," and like slashes
Yeah,
at his
yeah.
hand. Those are the two that fight him though, and like basically weaken the shit out of him. So keep an eye on Gilgalad. He is very, very important. And then last guy, Celebrimbor, the Elven Smith, ruler of Eregion. He's fine. He's cool. I'm very curious as to what's gonna happen next, I guess. Like, do you have anything on him? I don't really have anything on Celebrimbor besides that. I know you'll probably have more because of what you just
Yeah.
played, but
No, that's the thing. Like literally just the fact that Celebrimbor was in the show made me want to play Shadow of Mordor because that's like a major character in that game, those two
yeah.
games. So yeah, and he's definitely much more interesting in the game.
So what comes next, or I guess last thing I want to talk about before kind of getting into what is going to happen, uh, the music and the costumes, and the sets. I think all of those are done amazing. I think these are the best parts of it, was looking at the cool elven outfits. Besides Galadriel's armor was probably the most boring thing, and just felt weird. But because their elven armor is always so cool. Look at the fucking Helm's Deep elven
Well, it's
armor
always
there.
really ornate, and hers is
Yeah,
just kind of like plate armor.
yeah, but it's like shiny steel, like elegant steel. I don't
Yeah.
know, but the Numenorian armor is really cool. I love the outfits for like the dwarves. Durin's had a very interesting. He had
Yeah.
like the feet shoes. You could see the little feet and shit. Uh, Otherwise, like the designs of the orcs were really cool. I like the way they pulled off the orcs. That
Yeah.
was really well done. The music itself. So I was trying to figure out. It's Greg Bear. Is this no Bear McCreary is the composer. And Bear McCreary, you'll actually know from Godzilla King of the Monsters, if you didn't know him already. I was trying to think if he did God of War, but I think actually that is Greg Bear. I could be
Oh,
wrong, but
okay. Interesting.
let me double check this, see who the composer is. I just want to make sure I'm not confusing them. No, it is Bear McCreary. So he does God of War also. So we're about to play God of War and also Rings of Power. We just watched same composer, and his music, I think, does what's his do you remember the Howard Shore? Howard Shore is the composer for the Lord of the Rings. He does Howard Shore justice, I would say. I love the music in this show so much, especially I think I don't know if you'll agree with me, the Numenorian theme, the theme for kind of them as Numenor, them when they're gonna go off on the ships, because it gets like really an epic version of that. And then there's like a theme for a Sealdor and a Elendil that's really fucking good. And then you have the southern theme, which is also kind of like the Halbrand theme, where it's like "Ba, do, 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 do." And all of those I think are like the best parts of the music. They do such a good job with those where I really appreciated them. And honestly, in my like fun playlist of like the best Lord of the Rings music, I would probably throw 4 or 5 of the songs in that soundtrack in there because they are just fantastic. Like they are great fantasy songs of like just Lord Tolkien era shit. I liked it a lot. Do you have anything on any of that stuff or nah?
No, it's been a while since I don't really remember any of the themes. Like I remember the
It's
music
on
being like,
Spotify too.
yeah, like I remember it being good and just like similar to the movies, but not like focusing on specific themes, I
There
guess.
is the weird like songs too where they recite the ring writing where it's nine the 3 rings to the
Mm.
elves and they do like the whole like that was weird but it was interesting. But finishing off here, kind of what comes next, what we're gonna expect the next season or beyond those seasons. First off, obviously the Numenorians aren't gonna stay in Numenor. Uh
Yeah.
they are definitely something's gonna happen to that island.
Well, they're already hinting at like the fall of
This-
Numenor.
yeah. Numenor will fall, and I mean, guys, sorry, the spoilers here if you guys didn't figure it out yet, but also you watched Lord of the Rings, you kind of should know. The Numenorians are going to leave, and they're going to found 2 kingdoms, Arnor and Gondor. And you're going to get there. That's like kind of the big kingdoms there that are going to sprout from it, and those are going to be the kingdoms of the Numenorian men. But eventually, I believe it's called Kin Strife is what you get, and you kind of get that inkling with what's his face with the big dark beard, but the dark Numenorians. And the dark
Right.
Numenorians are the ones that do a civil war, and they believe in the more controlling aspect of we're better than everyone else. Fuck this shit. And they leave and they go and because they kind of some of their cities get destroyed, and they kind of hold up in Umbar, which we later get in Lord of the Rings with the Corsairs. Those are dark Numenorians, if you guys didn't know.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing. And because the whole thing is they have the heavier beards and all that shit, it's very like darker. And he has that exact like look. And you definitely will feel that from certain Numenorians that do feel more xenophobic and shit. Like you'll probably get some of that later on. I mean, I think we're gonna get some crown trouble. Like you're gonna see the strife between the cousin and the queen. Since especially she's blind and all that shit happened, and she's gonna be like, "Hey, we have to send more people there. It's war now." And he's gonna be like, "Well, what if we did this instead?" Uh, Something's gonna happen where obviously Elendil will take the crown and become king. So
Yeah, somehow.
yeah, somehow. Uh, I'm curious how many rings we're gonna see in the next season. If we're gonna get the other um 17 rings, or if we're gonna just get like uh
It'd be interesting if we see the dwarven
I
ones
think
in
next season for sure we're gonna get the Dwarven rings
yeah.
because that's the next set. but I'm more curious, do you think we're also gonna get the men's rings, or is that gonna be like a third I think
That
each
might be a
season we'll
third
get another
season.
ring, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least like the third season we get those plus Sauron's ring. Because, I think the show's supposed to be like 4 or 5 seasons, and if it is, you need the war to start at a certain point. You don't want the war to be too short. So,
I could
you have
see
to account for it.
season 3 being, like, making the
War
rings
begin.
and, like, giving them to the different, like, kings of men, and then, yeah, season 4, like,
It's
Sauron
just all
starts
out
to
war.
well, I don't know, season 4 might be, like, Sauron enacting his plan and, like, corrupting the kings and stuff, like, over time, and then, like, season 5 is, like, all out war,
Okay.
but I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll get the Dwarven rings, I think, next season for sure. I'm just curious how we're gonna go about them getting the Dwarven rings. And because obviously I think Sauron forges the one ring. Uh, I can't remember who forges the others though, if it's Celebrimbor still forging them.
I thought he was the one that forged, like, all the rings of power
I
except for the
think
One
so.
Ring, but
So he
I
is
could
gonna
be
forge
wrong.
them, and then Sauron's gonna use it to fuck everyone up. I think what's gonna happen is, uh, the dwarves are gonna each one's gonna need it for a different reason, and they're gonna come to the elves for it, probably, I assume. And then, the southern people, I'm very curious as to who they're going to go to. Are they just gonna kinda mix in with the Numenorians, and that's another aspect of what causes the Dark Numenorians to rise up? Or are they gonna found a country? Will they be the future Rohirrim, which I highly doubt, or are they gonna be some other faction? So that's gonna be interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Uh, then you have the elves, of course. We kind of have to wait and see what goes on there, but it's going to eventually lead into Sauron eventually sacking Eregion and destroying that, and the whole thing of when is Galadriel going to go and found Lothlorien, and when will Elrond flee Eregion and go to Lindon? Those are the two big things. Because another thing too is when it's either during the third or fourth, one of them is going to help in 2 times. Like, one is gonna help, like, allow the elves to cross to Lothlorien, and also save Elrond from Sauron's forces. Like, the elves, they're gonna stop them, and then also, at a certain point, they will come and attack Sauron's forces from the like, it's a whole thing. They come and attack Sauron's forces from the rear, and then lock themselves up in Khazad-dûm and go, "Alright, doors are shut, fuck you, we're gone." we did our
Interesting.
we did our part to save the elves. We're just gonna hold up. But eventually they do rejoin in the last alliance fight, and they do show up to fight Sauron. So they do not as much as obviously the men and elves, but they will show up as well. Otherwise, the Harfoots, we have Gandalf and Nori. I guess we don't
Yeah,
have
they
to
went
deal with
off
the
on an
other.
adventure, I guess.
At least we don't have to deal with the whole thing of them, but we'll just have
Yeah.
to deal with those two. They're going to Rune, which is the region that Mordor is in, so that's gonna that's gonna be something. Uh, and I think that's everything really. Oh, Durin, I think eh, he's gonna rise up in some
Yeah.
fashion. He'll find a way to become heir again, or the king will die at some point. I can't remember when, but he will.
You think we're gonna see the Balrog again? Because it doesn't make any sense that it's awake.
The whole thing is the Balrog doesn't show up until after. Like,
Yeah.
uh, the
That's why I'm, like,
Balrog
confused why they even did that, like, except for literally just, like, a teaser of, like, "Oh, check it out, it's a Balrog."
the Balrog destroys Moria the first time after the war is done, and then the dwarves leave and they do other shit, and then that's when they try to come back again, and, you know, they eventually establish it, and they're like, "Cool, we're cool there," and then they go too deep again, and the Balrog comes out, the goblins come out, the Watcher comes out, and then they all die, and then the Fellowship shows up. So the Balrog comes out like a couple times. Uh, so keep that in mind. But it's not until like after the war is done. I
Yeah.
don't think, if I recall, it is during the sixth that awakens the Balrog. So we're not even
So it's
close.
not even the Durin that we like that does that.
No,
Weird.
unless they might make it sooner because they could. They're kind of like, well, we could kind of do some whatever we want right now, right? It's okay. But I don't think I think they might delve away from the Tolkien, uh, like the way it goes, and they might change it, but we'll see. I think that's everything though. Uh, I'm pretty sure. I think overall though, I actually you go first because you put it best. I don't want to take the words from your mouth of what you said earlier.
Yeah, so it took a while for me to figure out like why I like was kind of mixed on this show, and it's just like how do I put it? I think it was like it's better than I expected, but not as good as I wanted it to be.
Yeah,
Because I am a
we had low fucking
yeah,
expectations.
like I'm a massive fan of the Lord of the Rings movies. Like eh, so I was really hoping that it could be really good because it was covering a period of time that I'm not familiar with, and but still covering some characters that existed in the movies that I know because elves are immortal. And like I was worried because Amazon, other than The Boys, there's like basically nothing on Amazon that has ever interested me. So I was really not expecting much out of the
Invincible,
oh, and Invincible. So there's like a couple things,
the
but
anti-Superman superhero shows.
yeah. So yeah, it's not terrible, but it's just not as good as I wanted. Was
Mhm.
hoping, I guess.
Okay. Um, yeah, I feel like honestly pretty much the same way where it is like I had such low expectations. It did better than I expected it to be, but I still had so many complaints and like felt mixed about a lot of it, but there were parts I really enjoyed. It's at a point though where I do feel like I'm not gonna hate everything else that comes next. I'm hoping they do better with everything else now, where it could kind of go uphill. And I do think they can go uphill with everything, except for the fact that now that they're going to be filming in the UK, I feel like this, the characters and the plot, the story, all that stuff, I think can go uphill. The production of itself, the set, I think is going to go downhill.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they might just be like, yeah, it's the same as New Zealand, motherfucker. That's just Scotland. Like, it's just gonna be like, yeah, it's the Welsh countryside. It's the same thing, right?
It's close enough, right?
Yeah, it's some more, we're in some moors. Where they filmed American Werewolf in London. Isn't it great? And they're like, no, fuck you. So yeah. Looking at time, I for sure
Yeah.
won't have anything to talk about. Do you still want to talk about Shadow of Mordor?
We should probably wrap it up because it's like already 7:30.
Okay. All right. I mean, I did. I guess I talked about it before on the show here too. I think I've talked about both, but we could still hit up Shadow of
Oh, so you have
Mordor.
played these before?
Yeah, I've talked about them both on the
Okay.
show.
Then yeah, then I guess next time I could talk about it and we could actually cover spoilers and stuff because I was
Yeah,
just like,
I think I spoiled it on the show too. You just don't
oh,
remember
that's
it.
cool because I don't remember
I
anything.
know. Yeah, dude, I spoiled everything in that show. I was like, I mean, in those games, I was like, oh shit. But now I won't talk about Shadow of War again now. I guess for a bit. I mean, you're not
Nah.
gonna play it for a while, but still.
But I might
Uh,
get to it like after God of War, but we'll see how long it takes me to get through
that's
God
what
of
I'm
War.
saying. Like God of War, and then when you get to Shadow of War, you're gonna be like, fuck, this game's long.
I'm like halfway through maybe God of War right now, and I'm hoping that maybe by Monday I can be most of the way through,
I really
but we'll
like.
see.
I guess before we close, I just want to say a few things. One, I really like that because normally we've been, we're cramming a shit ton of shows and movies and some games into these episodes recently, especially during October with the Halloween stuff and all the spooky things and whatnot. And then, coming up, we have different shows like Star Wars and Marvel shit and some other stuff coming up. But I'm glad that we could do one thing that it takes the entire episode to talk about, and it's just
Yeah,
between the two of us. But it's the thing that I love Star Wars, but also Star Wars has become so gluttonous and massive that it's not really like it's to the point where now where you're just like sections of it, and you're kind of like, yeah, I just like this part, but the rest is kind of disgusting.
yeah.
Uh,
Like Kenobi was okay. Andor's amazing though.
Fuck Kenobi though. I fucking hated that. That show sucked. Uh, But Mandalor I haven't watched Andor yet too. I haven't
Dude,
touched
it's so
that.
good.
I haven't started at all. And I'm like, fuck, I have to do 5 episodes or 4 episodes of She-Hulk. It's just
Yeah.
like, ugh. I mean, okay, the show's not. I'm not gonna say it's whatever. It's very whatever show so far. I'm like halfway through
Wait till
it.
I get to the last episode. You're gonna be like, "What the fuck is
That's the
going
thing.
on?"
I already got spoiled for the Scar look, and I'm like,
That's like the least
bro.
of that episode.
I know. I'm not. We'll talk about it when we get there next week. But Lord of the Rings is a world where everything has been such like for the most part. good quality. And then you get
Yeah.
stuff like The Hobbit, and you're just kind of like, fuck,
It's
but
still
still
good,
like
but it's
it's
like
still
could be better.
it doesn't make you want to like burn your house. Like
It's
you feel fine like afterwards. And it's such a I think the franchise is so special too because
not like The Last Jedi where you're like,
it's not oversaturated.
what?
It's done in moderation. And I appreciate that they've kept it that way. And it like even with Rings of Power, where I was so worried about it, and now that I've watched it, I feel less worried, and I'm actually like, okay, I'm on board. Like it's not like a high grade. I'd give it like a C, but it's I'm on board for it at this
Yeah.
point because I
I,
still love that world, and I appreciate the story they're trying to tell with the very
yeah.
interesting plane of frontier that's like not really Tolkien talked too much, that they can kind of work with it in ways that as long as they have the end game and down, they can kind of do certain things the way they want to and be like, it's canon. Um, but we're getting to a point now where we're getting into like three different branches of Lord of the Rings. I mean, one we have not counting this, but we have the Gollum game coming soon that is actually like a
I keep
weird
forgetting about
like
that shit. I'm
get the
like,
shit outside of my house. I don't want this in here. Keep it out there. None of us are we're not buying this game. We're not going to play this game. No one asked
from
for
the
the game.
get
No
go,
one
I
wants
was
this game.
like, who asked for this?
No one's going to play this game is I doubt this game is going to sell well. Like I don't know anyone
Yeah.
that wants to play it or buy it
I
or anything.
Yeah, I literally don't think I've heard a single like YouTube commentator or podcast or that I listen to or anything talk about that Gollum game and say like, yeah, I might give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's all
So
just like, I don't know, I don't care.
we have three branches though that are coming for Lord of the Rings. We have right now Amazon, which is giving us the show, and they're going to continue. It sounds like just with this show, that's all that they can do is this specific era, and they're just going to stick to the show. And I think once it's done, Amazon will no longer have anything to do with Lord of the Rings. On the other hand, we have Embracer that bought pretty much rights to everything, where they can be like, we can
Yeah, that
do
was a weird.
anything with Lord of the Rings, and that includes movies, shows, or I guess more or less movies, games, like board games, fucking when we talk about it was like theme parks or
Merchandise.
like merchandise and like actual physical places, which I'm like, of anything they can do, I hope they just specifically focus on tabletop games, because it's a game fucking company. I don't want movies from you guys. I'm sorry. And physical shit. Give me some fucking physical places to go to. I will die. I will love that shit for
They make
yeah. Give
a
me a
series of
Ghibli Lord of the Rings land or
they make a
something.
series of apartments and they call it Hobbiton.
No, give me a fucking Fellowship hike adventure. That'd be great.
Oh my god,
Then
that is fucking genius. What?
I know, fucking I'd do it. I would fucking do it. I'd leave everything and do it. No problem. Lambas bread every day. We just can eat lambas bread. But like, you guys gotta understand, I fucking love Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. It's like the three pillars of everything is Godzilla, Batman, Lord of the Rings. These are the three important things in my life of like the media, pop culture, whatever. Warner Brothers recently said they want to focus on their big franchises like the DC, or at least like the Trinity, uh, Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and stuff like that. And they're like, we still have rights to make movies, and I did not know that, because considering everything with Embracer, and that makes me very like. So what do you mean by that? What are you saying about like when you say you want to utilize your franchises again, and you can still make Lord of the Rings movies? What does that mean? Where are we
Yeah.
going with this? Because already Embracer was saying, yeah, we could do like a Gandalf and Aragorn movie and shit. And I'm like, let's not do those things, because we don't. Can we just go to the fucking Easterlings finally? I just want to go to an Easterlings thing. But what are all these different companies going to try to do? And how much are they going to throw in? And I hope to God they don't make this into like a weird, over bloated Star Wars situation, or even like Marvel situation, which could be that's 20 times worse. But like, I hope they still know not to it's like wasabi, James. When you get the sushi, just put a little bit of wasabi on, right? You don't put the whole fucking thing, or else you're gonna be like, oh fuck, why did I do this? Like, we don't
Yeah.
want that to happen. So I'm very curious as to what's gonna happen here. and hoping they all do things slowly and in small amounts, because otherwise it ruins the whole thing of why this is so special. And I think that's everything. That has been Sutro Sidetalk, you guys. And if you guys would like to contact us, you can at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. You can send us feedback, comments, or questions if you want us to read them on the show. Saying it right now, sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Names in the title at gmail.com. Next week, we have a Marvel episode. We're talking about Black Panther 2 and She-Hulk. If you have any questions on those two things, whether it's questions about this stuff or anything you want us to talk about specifically, send them to that email. Or, God of War, we're going to talk about that too. Questions about God of War, shoot our way. Any news coming up in the next 2 weeks, that too. All of that, you can email it right to us. If you want to follow us, you can follow the show at Sutro Sidetalk on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. I've been kind of not doing stuff on TikTok this last couple of weeks, just like I said, working on that short film. Now that I'm at least done for now, I already put up that God of War unboxing video for the collector's edition, and there's going to be a lot more, actually a good amount of both podcast clips, but I have a bunch of little news pieces I want to talk about, like 7 or 8 of them. So I'm going to start knocking those out. So we're going to have a lot more TikTok content coming up soon. And I'm still going to look into seeing if I could put those little TikTok clips on YouTube. There's those YouTube shorts. I want to look into that and see if I could spread them there too, besides like Instagram Reels. Instagram, you'll get the Reels as well as promos, and Twitter is more of retweets, opinion pieces, just like smaller versions of the Instagram posts, really. You could follow James, though, on Twitter at InvaderJim124, and you could follow me on GoGoComzilla. If you want to support us, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to or watching. If it's Apple Podcasts, give us that 5-star review. Spotify, give us that rating. And if it's YouTube, give us a like besides subscribing. Share it out to anyone you know. That would really help us out as well. But those are the things that could really, really help us get some goals in and just kind of spread out there and become more successful. Otherwise, like I said, next week, She-Hulk, Black Panther, week after, God of War Ragnarok, probably. And that is it. Catch you all later.
Thanks for listening.